Mr. Chu, do you allow your children under the age of 13 to participate in TikTok? Yes or no?
I did just explain this in detail. This experience doesn't exist in Singapore where my children live. If my children lived here, then yes.
Based on what we've heard today, it's clear to me that TikTok as a company cannot be trusted and that Americans remain significantly at risk because of the TikTok app. I still contend that TikTok is the spy in Americans' pockets. I want to acknowledge that TikTok does have the ability to make those changes, but unfortunately, we have not heard that from you today. We have not heard a commitment to be able to protect the personal privacy that Americans expect and that Americans deserve. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I yield the remainder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, do you agree that the Chinese government has persecuted the Uyghur population?
Congresswoman, if you use our app and you open it, you will find our users who give all sorts of content.
That's not my question. My question is, do you agree that the Chinese government has persecuted the Uyghur population?
While it's deeply concerning to hear about all accounts of human rights abuse, my role here is to explain what our platform does on this.
It's a pretty easy question. Do you agree that the Chinese government has persecuted the Uyghur population?
Congresswoman, I'm here to describe TikTok and what we do as a platform. And as a platform, we allow our users to freely express their views on this issue and any other issue that matters to them.
Well, you didn't answer the question. Earlier today, Chairman Rogers asked you, and I quote, "Have any moderation tools been used to remove content associated with the Uyghur genocide, yes or no?" Your answer, "We do not remove that kind of content." Yet, in 2019, TikTok suspended the account of Feroza Aziz, an American 17-year-old, after she put out a video about the Uyghur genocide. So your answer, sir, does not align with history.
That particular case was a mismoderation. I believe that video had a picture of Osama bin Laden, so we thought it was content that was inappropriate.
Yeah, I looked it up. That was a different post that they banned. TikTok
I can get back on the specifics, yes.
My next question. India banned the use of TikTok in their country in 2020. New Zealand has banned the installation of TikTok on devices connected to the country's parliamentary network. Canada banned the installation of TikTok on government devices. The United Kingdom has banned the TikTok app from government-owned devices. Belgium banned the TikTok from government phones. The European Union banned the installation of TikTok on government devices. All cited security risks with the company's data collection and connection to the Chinese Communist Party. Recently, our U.S. FBI Director Christopher Wray said about TikTok, quote, "This is a tool that is ultimately within the control of the Chinese government, and to me, it screams out with national security concerns." Mr. Chu, how can all of these countries and our own FBI director have been wrong?
I think a lot of risks that are pointed out are hypothetical and theoretical risks. I have not seen any evidence. I'm eagerly awaiting discussions where we can talk about evidence and we then can address the concerns that are being raised.
Yes, my next question revolves around an article. India banned TikTok in 2020. A March 21st Forbes article revealed how troves of personal data of Indian citizens who once used TikTok remain widely accessible to employees at the company and its Beijing-based parent ByteDance. A current TikTok employee told Forbes that nearly anyone with basic access to company tools, including employees in China, can easily look up the closest contacts and other sensitive information about any user. This current TikTok employee also said, quote, "If you want to start a movement, if you want to divide people, if you want to do any of the operation to influence the public on the app, you can just use that information to target those groups." Why would Mr. Chu, why would a current TikTok employee say this if it wasn't true?
This is a recent...
5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Crew, welcome to the most bipartisan committee in Congress. We may not always agree on how to get there, but we care about our national security. We care about our economy, and we sure as heck care about our children. We sure do. And that's why you're here today, because 2/3 of all the youth in our country are on your app. They spend an average of 95 minutes on your app. And you know, research has shown that TikTok is the most addictive platform out there. And the reason for that, as we've been told, is because it has the most advanced algorithm. And the Chinese Communist Party knows this, and I don't speak for everyone, but there are those on this committee, including myself, who believe that the Chinese Communist Party is engaged in psychological warfare through TikTok to deliberately influence U.S. children. You know, you see behind me, if you TikTok consistently fails to identify and moderate these kinds of harmful videos. Why is it? Why is it that you allow this to go on? We've already heard, God bless you, from parents who are here with us, who have lost children. I submit to you, everybody up here cares about the children of this country. Tell me why.
This is a real industry challenge, and we're working
No, it's
very
not
hard.
industry. This is TikTok.
We're
talking about TikTok. We're talking about why is it that you can't control this? And although I believe in giving credit where credit's due, I want to thank you. It's my understanding that the video that threatened the life of the chairwoman has been removed. Thank you for doing that. Sorry we had to bring it to your attention here, but it's been removed. Tell me why this goes on.
This is an industry challenge for all of us here operating in this country.
Okay, so much for industry challenge. I want to shift gears real quick. I want to talk about biometric matrix, and I want to talk specifically, can you tell me right now, can you say with 100% certainty that TikTok does not use the phone's camera to determine whether the content that elicits a pupil dilation should be amplified by the algorithm? Can you tell me that?
We do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users. We do not. The only face data that you will get, that we collect, is when you use the filters to have, say, sunglasses on your face. We need to know where your eyes are. And
why do you need to know what the eyes are if you're not seeing if they're dilated?
And that data is stored on your local device and deleted after use if you use it for facial. Again, we do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users.
I find that hard to believe. It's our understanding that they're looking at the eyes. How do you determine what age they are then?
We rely on age gating as our key age assurance.
Age
gating, which is when you ask the user what age they are. We have also developed some tools where we look at their public profile to go through the videos that they post to see whether...
Well, that's creepy. Tell me more about that.
It's public. So if you post a video, you choose that video to go public, that's how you get people to see your video. We look at those to see if it matches up the age that you talked about. Now, this is a real challenge for our industry because privacy versus age assurance is a really big problem.
Look, you keep talking about the industry. We're talking about TikTok here. We're talking about children dying. Do you know how many children have died because of this? Do you have any idea? Can you tell me?
Congressman, again, it's heartbreaking.
Can you tell me how many children in America have died because of challenges like this?
The majority of people who use our platform use it for positive experiences.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you, tell me the number of children, of U.S. children who have died because of these challenges.
Congressman, again, the majority of people who come on our platform get a good experience.
I'm not talking about the majority of children. I want to know a number.
Dangerous challenges are not allowed on our platform. If we find them, we will remove them. We take this very seriously.
Obviously, you found one today and you removed it. We had to bring it to your attention, and I know I'm out of time. Thank you for being here. Welcome again to the most bipartisan committee in Congress.
Gentleman yields back. For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm an information technology professional, been doing it for the most of my life. You've been evasive in many of your answers. I'm going to talk to you in some language that maybe you'll better understand, ones and zeros, okay? Let's talk about the Citizen Lab report. This is something your team frequently mentions in hearings as a way to exonerate yourself. For example, in the limitations section, it reads, we could not examine every source code component and test in the apps in every circumstance, which means our methods could not find every security issue, privacy violation, and censorship event. So it's an incomplete assessment. The report notes that TikTok's data collection using third-party trackers was in apparent conflict with the GDPR and that multiple themes were censored by TikTok. What is shocking to me is the shared source code between TikTok in the United States and the CCP-censored Douyin. The Citizen Labs report says that many of the functions and classes were identical and that the differences in behavior between TikTok in the United States and Douyin in China are slight changes in hard-coded values. Incredibly, specific censorship parameters from Douyin are present in TikTok, but just turned off. The authors say that for unknown reasons, the parameter variable itself is preserved. So while Citizen Lab may have been afraid to say the obvious conclusion, Mr. Chu, I am not. TikTok's source code is riddled with backdoors and CCP censorship devices. Here's the truth. In 1 million lines of code, the smallest shift from a 0 to a 1 on just one of thousands of versions of TikTok on the market will unlock explicit CCP censorship and access to American data. Mr. Chu, as CEO of TikTok, why have you not directed your engineers to change this source code?
Congressman, thank you for the question.
Have you directed them to change the source code?
Like what we are offering and
Yes
my
or
fourth
no?
commitment?
Have you directed them to change that source code?
Congressman, if you give me a bit of time to just
No,
explain this.
I don't. It's a yes or no question. Have you directed your engineers to change that source code?
I'm not sure I understand.
Why are you allowing TikTok to continue to have the capacity for censorship, and yet you claim here that you don't? Let me remind you of something. Do you realize that making false and misleading statements to Congress is a federal crime?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So have you directed your engineers to change that source code?
I am giving third-party access monitoring by experts. And Congressman, you are an expert on this. You could agree with me that no other company
TikTok
does
source
this.
code is the same as Douyin? What percentage?
I can get back to you on the specifics.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Where was the source code for TikTok developed? Was it developed in China or in the United States?
It's a global collaborative effort, like a lot of code for a lot of companies.
Was it developed in China? Some of it?
Some of it is.
Okay, at ByteDance. When it's compiled in the compilation process, can bytecode be manipulated? We've talked a lot about source code. What about the bytecode, the ones and zeros that actually execute on the device? Can it be manipulated? Yes.
Congressman, to give you comfort, that's why we're giving third-party monitors.
Yes,
As an expert, I think you can agree that very few companies
I've got
offer
the
to do this.
report here by Citizen Lab. I want to read you something from Ron Diebert. Specifically, in your written testimony to Congress, you stated on page 9, Citizen Lab found that there was no overt data transmission by TikTok to the Chinese government and that TikTok did not contact any servers within China. You implied that Citizen Lab exonerated TikTok from any information sharing with China. Well, the director of Citizen Lab saw this and issued a statement correcting the record yesterday. And I'm quoting Ron Diebert, the director of the lab. I am disappointed that TikTok executives continue citing the Citizen Lab's research in their statements to government as somehow exculpatory. I've called them out on this in the past, and it's unfortunate that I have to do it again, unquote. He goes on to say, and I quote, we even speculated about possible mechanisms through which the Chinese government might use unconventional techniques to obtain TikTok user data via pressure on ByteDance, end of quote. Mr. Chu, you sent Congress written testimony citing this lab as a support of your claim that China cannot access user data, US user data. And now this lab has come out to say, we never said that. That's misleading, Mr. Chu. I hope you understand what that is. That's misleading. Mr. Chu, this is yet another instance of TikTok attempting to mislead Americans about what their technology is capable of and who has access to their information. Madam Chair, I'd like to...
Madam Chair, I would like to respond to that very
Ron
quickly,
Diebert
please.
and the Citizens Lab into the record.
Without objection.
With
so
that, I
ordered.
yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair yields to the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Sarbanes, 5 minutes.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm going to pick up on a theme we've already covered here, which is the effect that your platform, along with many other social media platforms, by the way, has in terms of mental and behavioral health in this country. I won't speak to what's happening elsewhere in the world, but we've talked about the impact that it's having on children, on teens. We took some action last year in this committee to try to improve access to resources, reauthorize critical programs to address mental health needs, but we need to do even more than that. And we got to address what the big tech companies like TikTok are doing, because those are platforms that expose children, teens to additional risks. The more time that middle and high schoolers spend on social media, the evidence is the more likely they are to experience depression and anxiety. And this is particularly troubling since apparently 16% of American teenagers report that they use TikTok, quote, almost constantly. That's, I think, about 5 million teenagers in this country that are on TikTok all the time. And we know that big tech, including TikTok, uses design features that can manipulate users, including children and teens, to keep them engaged, designed to feed them a never-ending stream of content, keep their attention for hours on end, which includes capitalizing on the desire for others' approval through like features, preying on the fear of missing out through push notifications and so forth. Again, you're part of an industry that's set up to do this. You, in some sense, don't appear to be able to help yourselves in reaching out and finding that new user and then holding on to them. TikTok itself has acknowledged that these features and others, like the endless scroll feature, can have an outsized effect on teens. And we've been discussing today how your app only intensifies that harm by amplifying dangerous content and misinformation. I don't want to be too paternalistic here because we have young people in the audience. We've got TikTok users that are watching this hearing, and I'm sure they have their own ideas about how this technology is being managed by TikTok and other social media platforms. They like to access the platforms, and they should be able to do that safely, so it's certainly in their interest, and they can drive this conversation, I think, perfectly well, but it's not a fair fight, is it? I mean, the algorithms are on one side of the screen, the human brain is on the other side of the screen, drowning in these algorithms, in many instances at an age where the brain's not even fully developed yet, so those addictive impulses are being sort of perfected by the technology, and again, it leaves the users sort of helpless in the face of that. Are you looking at ways to redesign core features like the ones I mentioned to be less manipulative, and addictive for users? And can you commit to making some of those modifications here today?
Congressman, thank you. We do want to be leading in terms of safety of our users, particularly for teenagers. We were the first to launch a 60-minute watch limit.
Yeah, let's talk about the 60-minute launch.
And I'm very glad to see people, others in our industry follow. For many of your recommendations, we'll study them very seriously. Yeah. We actually have a series of features. Like, for example, if you're under 16, you cannot use a direct messaging feature because we want to protect those younger users. If you're under 16, you cannot go viral by default. If you're under 18, you cannot go live. And
let me go back to the 60-minute limit because my understanding is that teens can pretty easily bypass the notification to continue using the app if they want to. I mean, let's face it, our teens are smarter than we are by half, and they know how to use the technology, and they can get around these limits if they want to. Are you measuring how many teens continue to exceed the 60 minutes of time on that app?
We understand
Any sense how that's working.
We understand those concerns. Our intention is to have the teens and their parents have these conversations about what is the appropriate amount of time for social media. That's why we give the parents what we call family pairing.
Let me ask you this question before I run out of time. If you concluded that putting some reasonable limits in place and trying to find a way to enforce them would lead some percentage of your users to leave TikTok and go somewhere else, is that something that you're prepared to accept?
Yes.
Really? Well, I'd love to get the research on how these limits are being implemented, how they're being bypassed, and the things that you're taking, the measures you're taking to address those issues going forward. Please bring that information back to our committee as we move forward.
I'll be happy to.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Guthrie, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for yielding. I appreciate the time. Mr. Chu, your terms of service specifically state that TikTok does, and I quote, not allow the depiction, promotion, or trade of drugs or other controlled substances. Despite this content being against your terms of service, and I've brought this up with other service providers, but despite this content being against your terms of service, content on your platform related to illicit drugs like fentanyl, drug trafficking, and other illicit activity is pervasive and racks up hundreds of thousands of views. For example, in 2020, the Benadryl challenge resulted in the death of an American teenager. And we heard of another challenge earlier today that brought a death of a teenager. While you were at ByteDance, if you were the CFO for ByteDance, did doing allow related illicit drug trafficking or challenges resulting in death or injury to kids?
Congressman, I represent TikTok here today. I can tell you that TikTok does not allow illegal drugs content on our platform.
Did in China?
I believe they don't allow this, but I will need to check. I don't run their business.
My
I can tell you
question
TikTok
is-
does not allow this.
This is what we're concerned about, and my guess, it would DUN allow for 41 days a threat against a member of the Chinese Communist Party to stand on their site for 41 days?
Again, I cannot speak for Douyin, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part of what you said.
Well, we had a threat against the chairman of our committee that was on your site for 41 days. My guess is that would not be allowed in China.
That content is, if it's violative, I would look into the specifics, and if it violates our guidelines, it will be taken down on TikTok.
Yeah, it surely
Yes.
appears that it does. But the problem is what I'm trying to get at is you seem to be able to prevent this content in China, but so not even taking it down, just prevent it from being posted, and yet it's on your website. So I have a couple of questions about, you said earlier, as soon as you find this information, you take it down. So how quickly does your algorithm detect keywords or content that involve illicit drug trafficking before these posts are self-reported or used by others?
We have about 40,000 people working on this now, together with the machines that we train. I don't think any company in our industry can be perfect at this. This is a real big challenge for our industry, but our goal is to get any violative content, including illegal drugs, down to a very, very small number.
That's the problem. When we have these hearings, we have CEOs of different companies and of your colleagues and competitors, and we always hear apologies, and we always hear, we want to do better at this, but it just doesn't seem to keep improving, and we see hearing stories of our children, and obviously this has been talked about today. So how many posts and accounts have been identified and removed from TikTok due to content posted related to illicit drugs or other controlled substances?
Congressman, we do publish that in a transparency report. I can get my team to get the information to yours.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Also, we understand that the way that people use TikTok or other platforms similar to yours is that they ensure flagged user content isn't permitted to jump from. So my question, so what we've heard is that the instances the users see a drug advertisement and then give a code to go to another site. So my question is, do you work with other platforms to ensure flagged user content isn't permitted to jump from one platform to others?
I will check with my team. I would love to work with our industry to make sure that we stamp out these problems. Violative content should not be allowed on any platforms, in my opinion.
Well, so what's kind of frustrating to all of us here is that we look at what's happening on your sites and others, and particularly that we know, because we've done a research, that you can't have access to illicit drug information or others on Douyin, which is a sister company, as you say, in China. And so it absolutely, if you can prevent it on one and not the other, you obviously have the ability to stop it from moving forward, and yet you don't. Would you like to expand how one of your sister companies can prevent that and you not? I know you don't represent Douyin, but they don't allow it, but it happens on your platform. What's the difference?
First of all, the majority of the content on TikTok is fun, entertaining, informative, and very positive for our users. Like other companies that operate in this country, we have to deal with some bad actors who come and publish some content on illegal drugs, other.
The bad actors don't seem to be able to access Douyin.
The TikTok US experience should be compared to other US companies because this is a common challenge.
But your parent company has the technology to prevent it because you prevent it in China, but you can't prevent it here. What's the difference? That's why I'm asking.
Oh, Congressman, there is no technology that is perfect in doing this. We have to deal with the reality of the country that we're operating in. And here in the United States, as with other companies, we share this challenge. We are investing a lot to address the challenge, but we are, it's a shared challenge.
You invest a lot to seem to be able to address it in China, but not here.
Again, I think the comparison has to be within the single country. We face the same set of challenges here in the
What's
US.
the difference? I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but what's the difference in China and here?
Let me give you an example, Congressman. In my home country, Singapore, there is literally almost no illegal drug content because Singapore has very strict drug laws.
Thank you. My time's expired now. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Tonko, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm concerned that TikTok's algorithm preys on vulnerable people, including those struggling with addiction, eating disorders, and other mental health conditions. The platform is designed to push content to users that will watch more frequently and for longer periods of time. Unfortunately, for many people suffering from certain mental health disorders, videos that reinforce their fears or negative self-image are more engaging. On top of that, TikTok has received sensitive patient health information and records of browsing activity from multiple telehealth companies like BetterHelp, and Cerebral. People's personal struggles should not be fuel for TikTok's profits. People should be able to seek help to address serious medical concerns without being afraid that their information will be shared with social media companies trying to push more products, services, or content at them. So, Mr. Chu, will TikTok continue to get information from third parties on its users' health, including their mental health, yes or no?
We will continue to work with experts, yes, if that's the question, to identify these issues.
Will you continue to get information from these third parties, including their mental health, yes or no?
Congressman, I'm sorry, I may not understand your question. If your question is if I'm working with them on these issues, the answer is yes.
It's not the question, it's will you continue to get information from these third parties on its users' health?
Get information. We do not get any user health information from third parties, Congressman.
You have talked a lot about user privacy and safety. Will you commit here today to no longer using data about users' health, particularly their mental health, to push them content or sell ads? Yes or no?
We take our users' mental health very seriously.
Yes or no?
As far as I'm aware, we don't do that, Congressman. It's not what the...
So the answer is no, you'll no longer use data about users' health. TikTok systematically exploits users' anxieties by pushing alarming and distressing content onto their For You page. For example, in May of 2022, the LA Times found that some pregnant users searching for information about their pregnancies on TikTok were then shown information about miscarriages, stillbirths, and delivery room traumas. Your company knows that distressing content can have the perverse effect of feeding user engagement. And for TikTok, engagement means money. In the course of a week, what percentage of content that a user sees is considered potentially harmful or distressing content?
Congressman, we work with a lot of experts on this. Even before we set the 60-minute time limit for under 18s, if you spend too much time on our platform, you can try it. If you spend too much time, we will actually send you videos to tell you to go out and get some air and get off the platform.
What percentage of content that a user sees is considered potentially harmful?
I will need to follow up with my team and get back to you on that, if that's okay.
Ballpark.
I will need to follow up with my team.
So are teenagers in particular shown more distressing content?
The opposite is true. We actually put in more restrictions to make sure that our teenagers get a better experience.
Are expectant or new parents shown more distressing content?
I know of many parents, including one I met recently, who actually use our platform to find communities, to connect with other parents and learn a lot more. I've heard amazing stories of creators who have difficulties, and
reclaiming my time. Are individuals with eating disorders shown more distressing content?
We do not. We remove all content that glorifies eating disorders, and we have worked with experts to look at certain certain content that may not inherently be harmful, like diet trends, and make sure that we disperse them more throughout our algorithm.
What about those with mental health issues? Are they given more distressing content?
If a user searches, words that expresses mental health issues, we actually redirect them to a safety page. Like, for example, if you, I don't know if I should say this in public, if you search, I want to die, we will redirect you to a safety page, for example. Like more data than any other social media company out there. A lot of these reports, and we can talk about which specific one you're talking about, a lot of them are not that accurate. Some of them we have we have actually gotten in touch with the authors to help them understand the data that we're collecting. A lot of it is speculation. You know, this is something they could do. But if you look at the subtext, this is something that every company could do.
I'm running out of time. Let me just say that if TikTok chose not to take this sensitive information that you don't need for a transaction and support our comprehensive privacy bill, that would be very helpful. The other thing I wanted to ask, so really this is a yes or no, that does TikTok share user information from companies, from parent companies, from affiliated, or send user information to overseas?
In the past, yes, for interoperability purposes. Now, after Project Texas, all protected US data will be stored here with the access controlled by a special team of US personnel. Again, Congresswoman, this is something that, as far as I understand, no other company, including American companies, are willing to go. So maybe this is something that we can ask the industry to provide, not just us, to protect US user interests.
In the case of sharing information, I do want to quote from employees that you had, and here's the quote, everything is seen in China, is really what they said. People who were in touch with the sensitive data were saying that. How do you respond to that?
I disagree with that statement.
Well, I know you disagree with that statement, but my point is, how does that happen that employees of the company are saying that, in fact, that's not true?
I cannot speak to, I don't know who this person is, so I cannot speak to what the person has or has not said. What I can say is, you know, based on my position in this company and the responsibility that I have, that statement is just not true.
Okay, unfortunately, and I'll close, I guess I'm over my time, we need to look into the facts of this, and so do you. And I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes the lady from Florida, Ms. Kamek, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Shou, are you aware of Chinese Communist Party leader Chairman Xi Jinping's comments in May 2021 during a Communist Politburo study session where he instructed colleagues to target different countries, different audiences with short-form video? Are you aware of these comments? Yes or no?
Congressman, I'm not aware of these comments.
Okay. Well, and as was pointed out by Chairwoman Rogers, you have regular contact with Chinese Communist Party Secretary, Mr. Zhang Fuping, who is your boss at ByteDance, correct?
No.
No.
No, he's neither my boss, nor do we have frequent contact.
But you have regular contact with ByteDance.
With the CEO of ByteDance.
Who is, Mr. Zhang Fuping is the editor-in-chief.
He's not the
My
CEO.
colleague, Representative Burgess, a few minutes ago exposed that TikTok and ByteDance share legal teams. You confirmed this, correct?
Our general counsel is
Yes.
an
Yes or
American lawyer,
Yes.
veteran of Microsoft.
Also, my
many
colleague,
years.
Representative Latta, confirmed that your parent company, ByteDance, currently can access user data. Yes?
We have to be more
Yes.
specific.
Yes.
After
You
Project
say-
Texas, no.
I'm not asking after Project Texas, I'm asking now. Yes.
Some user data is public data, Congresswoman, which
So
means
you
everybody
confirm that.
can search
What's
for it on the
interesting to
internet.
me is that you have used the word transparency over a half a dozen times in your opening testimony and subsequently again in your answers to my colleagues. Yet the interesting thing to me is that ByteDance, your parent company, has gone out of their way to hide an airbrush corporate structure ties to the CCP, the company's founder, and their activities. You can look no further than the fact that ByteDance website has been scrubbed. In fact, we found web pages from the Beijing Internet Association, the industry association charged with Communist Party building work of internet companies in Beijing. They have been archived, but since deleted. Makes you kind of wonder why. Yes or no, ByteDance is required to have a member of the Chinese government on its board with veto power. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. ByteDance owns some Chinese businesses, and you're talking about a very special subsidiary that is
Mr.
for
Shou,
Chinese business licensing
Mr. Shou,
purposes.
I'm going to have to move on. You've said repeatedly that there is no threat, that this is a platform for entertainment and for fun. I have to ask you then, if there is no threat to Americans, if there is no threat to our data, privacy, security, why did an internal memo from TikTok corporate headquarters explicitly coach senior management to, quote, downplay the parent company ByteDance? Why would they say downplay the China Association and downplay AI? This is from an internal memo from your company. Why, if you had nothing to hide, would you need to downplay the association with ByteDance in China?
Congresswoman, I have not seen this memo.
You can't
What I
answer
can
that
say-
question. Mr. Shou, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen for a short video, if you don't mind. Mr. Shou, that video was posted 41 days ago. As you can see, it is captioned me as F at the House Energy and Commerce Committee on March 23rd of this year. This video was posted before this hearing was publicly noticed. I think that's a very interesting point to raise. But more concerning is the fact that it names this chairwoman by name. Your own community guidelines state that you have a firm stance against enabling violence on or off TikTok. We do not allow people to use our platform to threaten or incite violence or to promote violent extremist organizations, individuals, or acts. When there is a threat to public safety or an account is used to promote or glorify off-platform violence, we ban the account. This video has been up for 41 days. It is a direct threat to the chairwoman of this committee, the people in this room, and yet it still remains on the platform. And you expect us to believe that you are capable of maintaining the data security, privacy, and security of 150 million Americans where you can't even protect the people in this room? I think that is a blatant display of how vulnerable people who use TikTok are. You couldn't take action after 41 days when a clear threat, a very violent threat to the chairwoman of this committee and the members of this committee was posted on your platform. You damn well know that you cannot protect the data and security of this committee or the 150 million users of your app because it is an extension of the CCP. And with that, I yield back.
Can I respond, Chair?
No, we're going to move on. Gentlelady yields back. Chairman recognizes the lady from California, Ms. Matsui, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'm really glad that we're having this very important hearing here today. And let me just say, make no mistake, the Chinese government represents a real and immediate threat. Look no further than even the vulnerable gear still in our telecom networks that needs to be ripped and replaced. But we can't lose sight of the important internet governance issues TikTok and other social media companies represent. I'm especially committed to demanding transparency from large platforms about the algorithms that shape our online interactions, especially for teenagers and young users. And that's why I introduced the Algorithmic Justice and Online Platform Transparency Act to bring greater visibility into this ecosystem. My bill would prohibit algorithms that discriminate on the basis of race, age, gender, ability, and other protected characteristics. It also would establish a safety and effectiveness standard for algorithms while requiring new forms of oversight. Now, this bill would require online platforms to publish annual public reports detailing their content moderation practices, which I believe should be a baseline requirement to enable meaningful oversight and consumer choice. Mr. Chu, just yes or no, do you believe a requirement for annual content moderation practices for social media platforms would be beneficial? Yes or no?
Yes.
This transparency bill would also require online platforms to maintain detailed records describing their algorithmic process for review by the Federal Trade Commission in compliance with key privacy and data identification standards. Mr. Chu, does TikTok currently maintain records describing their algorithmic processes? Yes or no?
Congressman, I will need to check and get back to you on what kind of specific records you are talking
Okay,
about.
I wait for that. Over the past few years, alarming information brought to light by whistleblowers have shown that social media companies are intimately aware of the effect their products have on young women, political extremism, and more. Despite this, they withheld those studies or declined to investigate further. In either case, it shows a pattern evasive or negligent behavior that I find concerning in the extreme. Mr. Chu, does TikTok conduct its own studies on the effect of its algorithms and content distribution models on mental health or safety? And if so, how and when are those findings made public? And if not, do you believe they are necessary?
Congresswoman, we rely on external third parties and fund their research to help us understand some of these issues. For example, we worked with the Digital Wellness Lab at the Boston Children's Hospital to understand the 60-minute time limit that we put for all our under 18 users. And we are supportive of legislation that provides more funding for research, like, for example, for the NIH.
Okay. TikTok tailors its recommended content based on user activity to encourage people to spend more time on the app. While this practice is by no means unique to TikTok, given the prevalence of young users and the digestible nature of short-form video, I'm concerned about the app's tendency to exacerbate existing mental health challenges. Mr. Chu, does TikTok have different policies for amplifying content that would be related to depression or dieting versus content like gardening and sports? If yes, describe these policy differences. If no, why not?
Congresswoman, thank you for that. This is a great question. The answer is yes. We are trying out some policies together with experts to understand certain contents that are not inherently
ability to influence this content Americans see on a prolific social media platform represents an unprecedented threat to American security and to our democracy. However, the problems of social media platforms, content moderation, algorithmic discrimination, and safety are neither new nor unique to TikTok. Mr. Chu, I share the concerns raised by my colleague, Congresswoman Matsui, related to algorithms. I believe that without mitigation against bias, platforms will continue to replicate, exacerbate discrimination that is illegal under civil rights law, as well as exclude important dialogue about sensitive topics like race from occurring on the platform. For example, I was disturbed by reports that TikTok content moderation algorithm flagged words like Black or Black Lives Matter as inappropriate content. So my first question, Mr. Chu, is do you agree that platforms like TikTok should be subject to regular audits or transparency requirements to identify whether policies have a disparate impact on communities that are protected classes like race, religion, national origin, or gender?
I think, Congresswoman, I think platforms should be very transparent on what they do there and disclose a lot of information. We can get back on the specifics of what we mean by an audit, but I do agree very strongly that platforms should be very transparent, and it's a commitment that we're giving to this committee and all our users that our platform will be a place of freedom of expression. We embrace all diverse points of view, all ethnic minorities. You can come and say whatever you want, as long as you don't violate the rules of safety that were put in place. And we also commit to be free of all and any government manipulation. So I think I'm in strong agreement with a lot of what you said.
Well, thank you. My bill, the Algorithmic Accountability Act would require platforms to be transparent about their algorithms, measure disparate impact, and require risk mitigation. It is vital that the diverse culture of the United States is reflected online, but I'm concerned the algorithms and content moderation practices employed by TikTok are ignorant to the fundamental diversity while also failing to remove content that is harmful, like child sexual abuse material, hate speech, or domestic terrorism content. My next question to you is, it's my understanding that users must be in good standing to be eligible for compensation from TikTok's Creator Fund. For example, they can't have violated community guidelines. Is this correct?
There are some details there, but directionally, yes.
If TikTok's algorithm is flagging content incorrectly, resulting in creators violating community guidelines when in fact they have not, those creators would not be eligible to receive compensation under the Creator Fund, correct?
We do have an appeals process.
You have an appeals process, okay.
Yes,
In
yes.
my view, if TikTok employs algorithms that disproportionately remove content from Black creators, it disproportionately silences and excludes Black creators from compensation opportunities. And this problem happens in parallel to the lack of adequate recognition, attribution, and compensation to Black creatives for their content. The exploitation, cultural misappropriations, the erasure of Black creatives' ownership of their fashion, art, and media is nothing new. We need transparency, accountability, and bold action to mitigate against misinformation, bias, and exclusion of certain communities from the opportunities present on platforms like TikTok. So let me just say this. I'm concerned about transparency. I am concerned about algorithmic accountability. And I'm not clear that your organization holds those values. So I want to ask that you take a look at this because this is all part and parcel of what we're concerned about with respect to social media platforms and the misappropriation, the ways in which those algorithms can discriminate within the context of the social media platform. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Congresswoman, is it okay if I just very quickly respond? This is a very important topic.
Unfortunately, we only have 4.5.
Algorithms have prioritized providing harmful content directly to children, like self-harm challenges and even suicide. Just 3 days ago, Italy opened an investigation into the TikTok over user safety concerns after the so-called French scar challenge went viral on your platform. I know you know about the blackout challenge, which others may know as the choking challenge that encourages children to bring them to the point of unconsciousness or in some cases, tragically, death. If that isn't enough, I want to share the story of Chase Nasca, a 16-year-old boy from New York who tragically ended his life a year ago by stepping in front of a train. I want to thank his parents. Again, they are here. I want to thank his parents for being here today and allowing us to show this. Mr. Chu, your company destroyed their lives. Your company destroyed their lives. I admire their courage to be here and share Chase's story in the hopes that it will prevent this from happening to other families. The content in Chase's For You page was not a window to discovery, as you boldly claimed in your testimony. It wasn't content from a creator that you invited to roam the hill today, or STEM education content that children in China see. Instead, his For You page was sadly a window to discover suicide. It is unacceptable, sir, that even after knowing all these dangers, you still claim TikTok is something grand to behold. I want you to see what Chase would see. And I think if you want, again, would you share this content with your children, with your 2 children? Would you want them to see this? And again, I want to warn everyone watching that you may find this content disturbing, but we need to watch this, please.
Larry tip. You got to kill yourself.
Oh, word? Like right now?
And then I'm gonna put a shotgun in my mouth and blow the brains out of the back of my head.
Cool.
This is a cute story. My brother, who is addicted to painkillers, blew his head off on the State Street Bridge. Bam! Now hold on, it gets better. No letter, no goodbye, nothing.
I got a question. If I died, would you miss me?
Mr. Chu, please. Your technology is literally leading to death. Mr. Chu, yes or no? Do you have full responsibility for your algorithms used by TikTok to prioritize content to its users? Yes or no, please?
Congressman, I'll just like to, if respectfully, if you don't mind, I would just like to start by saying
or no? I'll repeat the question. Do you have full responsibility over the algorithms used by TikTok to prioritize content to its users? Yes or no, please?
Congressman, we do take these issues very seriously.
Yes or no?
And we do provide resources for anyone who types in anything that
Sir,
that is suicide
yes or
related.
no? I see you're not willing to answer the question or take any responsibility for your parents' companies, the technology, and the harms it creates. It's just very, very sad, very sad.
It's very sad.
This is why Congress needs to enact a comprehensive privacy and data security law to give Americans more control over their information and to protect our children. We must save our children from big tech companies like yours who continue to abuse and manipulate them for your own gain. And I'll yield back, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the lady from Florida, Ms. Castor, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, it is urgent that the Congress pass an online data privacy law that protects the personal privacy of Americans online, and particularly our kids. While this hearing shines a light on TikTok, this hearing also should serve as a call to action for the Congress to act now to protect Americans from surveillance, tracking, personal data gathering, and addictive algorithmic operations that serve up harmful content and has a corrosive effect on our kids' mental and physical well-being. For many years, I've sounded the alarm in this committee of how big tech platforms like TikTok and Facebook and Instagram incessantly surveil, track, gather personal private information, and use it along with data brokers to target and influence our behavior. This is a much broader issue than TikTok in China. There are other